Generation 8 is just around the corner. The official reveal is expected in May at the latest, but it could be as early as this month. God, I hope it doesn't happen between now and when the video comes out. I don't really want to speculate on what I think those games are going to be like. That's not what I'm about. I'm not here to try to figure out where the next region is going to be based on. I'm perfectly happy to just wait for the official reveal. But I'm also perfectly okay to talk about what I would like to see in those games without any implication that this is what I predict or anything like that. So that's what we're going to talk about today before that official trailer comes out. Hopefully. I think the main thing I hope to see in Gen 8 is that I want Game Freak to acknowledge in their game design that they have an aging audience. Pokemon's oldest fans are in their 30s, and Game Freak cannot keep trying to make games to appeal both to the older crowd and to new, younger fans because someone is going to be disappointed. I think this might be part of the point of doing Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, to start splitting their audience into two. That's why Masuda-san announced Gen 8 along with Let's Go, and why he made a point of stating that it would be a core RPG like X and Y or Sun and Moon. But that's not entirely what I'm talking about. The return of core mechanics and competitive features that were absent in Let's Go is great, but it's not enough. I want the games to be mature in their conception. I'm not saying I want the story to be darker or rated M for mature or anything. I just want a game that doesn't treat me like a child. There are a few sub-points that follow from this. The amount of linearity and direction from Sun and Moon is just not great. We don't need to be constantly told where to go. I want a game that, it doesn't need to be fully open world, although that would be great, but I want a game that encourages and rewards exploration. A game where you figure out what you're supposed to do next by going places and doing things. If you hit a dead end, you just turn around and try again. I also want better writing. Plot and character development are easily among Pokemon's weakest points. It did get better in Gen 7, with multiple characters having actual development arcs, but they still felt very cliché or boilerplate. Basically, I want the major characters to be as fleshed out as you would see in a good novel or in a movie. As for the plot, you could really tell they were trying with the Alolan games. You got a bit of story before you even begin the game, there were cinematic cutscenes, there were surprise twists, but I still didn't find it compelling. What I think I'm missing from Pokemon is a more pedestrian plot. Think back to Gen 1 and 2. The rocket plot was a relatively minor part of the games, there was no imminent world destruction, and the legendaries had a tangential involvement at best. Nowadays, it's always someone or something is trying to take over and or destroy the world, and you need to catch or defeat the legendary Pokemon in order to stop it. And it's just too much. The Rockets made Mewtwo, but ultimately they were just a mafia. They were just trying to make money. I'd like to see more of that. Now, I realize that everything I just talked about is not exactly likely. So let's talk about some things that I'd like to see that are a bit more realistic. But let's stay on the topic of story for a bit. Cinematic cutscenes are a good thing, but they weren't very well done in Gen 7. I think for them to be effective, they need to either be shorter or more engaging, and in Gen 7, they were often long and filled with generally uninteresting dialogue. And many cutscenes, especially at the beginning, were long scenes chopped into shorter bits. There's one cutscene where you meet Lily, and another one where she asks you for help, and yet another one where Tapu Koko rescues you. But there's no point in breaking it up like that. If you're going to do a cutscene, just do the whole scene. When I have control over my character, I expect to actually be able to control what I'm doing. I also really want to see more returning characters, but I want to see them with actual significant roles. I don't want to just meet Colress and Grimsley like in Alola, where you just chat and then they give you something. Meeting Red and Blue in Alola or Mina in Kanto was better because you got to actually battle them, but they still didn't have any real role. I liked how they used Annabelle in the Sun and Moon post-game, and how Blue made multiple appearances throughout Let's Go. I want more of that, and more with significant characters. I want to see Silver, or N, or even player characters from previous generations, besides Red. Alright, that's enough on story. As far as the graphics go, the Let's Go style is perfectly appropriate for Pokemon. Although I do think they need to do some things to make the world look more alive, and more realism isn't enough. I mean, the Pokemon in Let's Go were done very well, and I obviously want wild Pokemon in the overworld to be a thing again, but the people didn't get that same treatment. They need to walk around and move their arms or whatever, even when they're being idle, and the trainers definitely need to look around and do other interesting things like they did in Alola. On the Pokemon side, naturally I'm hoping for a good number of new Pokemon, but if they're well designed, I won't complain if they add less than 100. I would like to see fewer legendary and mythical Pokemon, but I don't see that happening. I'm definitely hoping that some Pokemon from previous generations get new proper evolutions and baby Pokemon, but I think the only thing that would disappoint me on the Pokemon side is if they didn't introduce new regional forms. And they can include some Gen 1 Pokemon in those, but they absolutely need to involve a wide range of generations. I've mentioned multiple times how I think they should handle the whole field move and ride Pokemon situation. I think they should be your own Pokemon, and that multiple Pokemon should have the same skill, kind of like how it was in Let's Go. But I think you should be able to register Pokemon as ride Pokemon so that you can call in them even when they're not in your party, sort of how it was in Alola. And about the region itself, I know that the rumors everywhere are that it's going to be based on England or the UK as a whole, and I'm definitely up for that, but I would very much prefer for them to represent a new continent. We already have 4 Japanese Asian regions, 2 North American ones, and a European one. South America, Africa, and Oceania are feeling pretty neglected. Although they could also go back to Asia as long as they focused on like somewhere in the Middle East or India where the culture is completely different from Japan. I think that's it. The maturity of the games is really the one big thing that I'm hoping for. I'm not really expecting it, but it's the kind of thing that if they did that, if they actually made a game that is aimed at their older players, I would be much more forgiving of whatever other choices they might make within that. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts on this as well, so if there's something you disagree with me on or that I didn't cover, drop that in the comments and we'll keep the conversation going. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. I'm Umbreon Libris. I'll see you in the next chapter. Okay, I think that's enough. I think I've humiliated myself enough now.